Hey everybody, this is GGB and co-host Poppers. Today, we're going to get into this Madden 20 Sunbelt at FCS Division 2/Division 3 game. So if you don't know, Packers are the smaller schools. They're just tiny schools, okay? So it'd be a school that's not in any conference, but yet produces a NFL quality player, like Eastern Illinois produced Jimmy G, stuff like that. But the Sun Belt is obviously the Sun Belt Conference, and they're the Eagles because Doug Peterson went to University of Louisiana Monroe. But it's a really interesting game because the Sun Belt, which wasn't even supposed to compete, and which I made a bet that is actually looking kind of dumb before, I didn't expect them to play this close with the FCS, and I bet that I would lick a lamppost, and now I'm kind of scared that I have to do that. But let's see if the Sunbelt, so they go run here, and he gets automatically stuffed, so maybe I won't have to lick that lamppost after all, because that was a pretty quick stuff right there by Matthew Judon. But they weren't supposed to compete today. This was supposed to be the bad game, honestly. But it's turning out like that Conference USA Big 12 game, which I actually expected Conference USA to compete. I did not expect Sunbelt to compete, considering their starting quarterback is the second worst quarterback in the NFL, Brandon Silvers. So let's see what they do here. So he drops back to pass, scans the field. Honestly, that wasn't his fault. He was hit while he was throwing it, but on top of that should have been caught. It really should have. So, the Sun Belt doesn't have a bad kicker. Will Lutz is a pretty good kicker, so he can make it from this distance. But, obviously you'd want to get a little bit closer for Will Lutz. So let's see. Drops back to pass, and he misses it. So, we're going to be testing that, can he make it from this far of a distance theory. Let's see if Lutz can do it. He's a very good kicker, so it's very within the realm of possibility. And it's odd here. They weren't supposed to compete, but you get to see their defense is starting to look better, which it's a big thing. If they can get a pretty good defense, which they got a great guy in DeMario Davis, and then Josh Norman can lock it up. Oh wait, he missed it. That looked good, but he missed it. Let's. But they can get good defensive stops. Obviously, you can see they haven't been moving the ball well offensively, but which actually, they did better than I thought they would offensively, but I'm trying to read Cohen's stats. I don't know why that is. Austin Eckler is the starting running back for them. But you got Austin Eckler, Adam Thielen, Tyreek Hill. Look at this firepower, and they're really just not beating up on the Sunbelt Eagles, which are hanging in there. Only down by 3. A one-possession game, which it really shouldn't be. It should be a much bigger lead for this team, considering how much better they are than the Sunbelt Eagles. But let's see what they do here. So they go with run with Eckler, and he's stuffed. It's just being read really well by this defense, and it's because of this linebacker. These linebackers that they have, DeMario Davis is one of the best outside linebackers in the entire NFL. And then you have Mario Addison, who's really good, who's pretty good. And then you have David Mayo, which, he's not fantastic, but he's also not bad, which is what you need. So he throws it, and it's caught. But if Josh Norman and his secondary can just lock up, the problem is rushing the passer with this team. They don't have a great rushing the passer unit, but it's going to be really interesting because this team is really undermanned. I legit got every single player from the Sun Belt, and I still had to move people from corners and free safeties over to offensive linemen, because there's only 6 offensive linemen in the NFL from Sun Belt, and you have to have 10 to have a complete roster in this game, which is stupid, but you have to have it. So it's really weird. And then I had moved middle linebackers and defensive tackles around. It's an odd team, but if it works, So he dumps it off, and he gets automatically tackled. This team, if they don't let him in the end zone there, it'll be 6-0, which is much better than I thought. If you told me second quarter they'd only be losing 6-0, like that would have been like, you're joking with me, right? Because this team is really competing, and it really shouldn't. The FCS Division II, Division III Packers should really just be blowing them out right now. She dumps it off to Thielen, and Thielen picks up the first down. Wait, no, not Thielen. I'm sorry. That's Goddard? No, Boyle. I'm sorry. Nick Boyle from Delaware. That's on me. Nick Boyle. Man, that's pulling something out of your hat. Throwing it to Nick Boyle. And I'm surprised. David Mayo should be able to match up with Nick Boyle. He's Nick Boyle. Like, that guy's not that great. So, 13-yard line here. Let's see if they can stop him from getting in the end zone, or if the Packers will start to pull away here. See what they do. Looks like it's going to be a run play for Austin Eckler. So, yeah, they go run. Oh, my gosh, he could have cut that inside earlier, and you could have gotten maybe even a touchdown on Eckler. That was a bad read on the offensive line, and the defense took advantage of that. Stopped him for only a 2-yard gain when it should have been really a touchdown. So let's see what they do here. It looks like maybe a run? No. Yeah, they go run. Run up the middle, and it's stopped pretty quickly. So they're going to have to go the 3rd and 6. Let's see if the Eagles will be able to stop him here. Which would just be amazing if you could only be losing 6-0 with, like, you've played 20 minutes of football already. Not yet. You've played, like, 19 in, like, 15 seconds. So they bring a blitz here. He throws it. And it's incomplete. 9-yard line. They're going to be kicking a field goal with Zerline. And it's amazing. I don't know how they're doing this. It is basically magic. It is magic what they're doing here. They're hoping to pull off the biggest upset of the tournament and get to play the number 1 overall seed in the SEC Browns, which they'd probably lose to. I mean, the SEC Browns are probably one of the favorites. I wouldn't say that. I think the Big Ten's probably my favorite to go win it all, but I think the SEC is a close number. I don't know. Like, I think the SEC and the Big Ten are probably evenly matched. They're both very good teams. And the only thing I think I'd give the Big Ten the nod is they have a better quarterback in Russell Wilson than the SEC does in Matt Stafford. But it's just, this tournament will look really weird. Because suddenly the Mountain West, who's expecting to play the number 1 seed, will be playing the Big Ten. And then you're going to have the Independents. They're going to be playing the ACC. And it's just going to look really weird. And you're going to have... You could end up with the Independents having a home field advantage in the playoffs. If everything goes wonky. Which it might. So let's see this kick return. Ooh, what a juke. It's out to the 31-yard line. Yeah, that's what I said, 31-yard line. It was a good return. So let's see what Brandon Silvers can do. He has not had a bad game. Like, I was expecting to come out here and say stuff like he's been playing horribly, but honestly, he's been playing pretty well. And I don't know if Sunbelt's going to be able to get a new rookie in next year, or maybe even Brandon Silvers will make a transition for the NFL, and we can have the actual Brandon Silvers instead of my made-up Brandon Silvers. But I really would like them to have a solid starting quarterback instead of me having to make the second worst quarterback in the NFL. Man, he got a good block, but J.D. McKissick just didn't do well there, trying to run after words. But yeah, see, like, that was a good block. Considering how much better the defensive line is than compared to the offensive line, it really should not even be close right now. How much they should dominate, but they're just really not. As much as I thought they would. Okay, so Brandon Silvers goes 5 wide here. Let's see what he does. Drops back in the pocket. Throws Nice little slant. And that might be a first down. Nope, 3rd and inches. So, that was to Mr. Brian Quick. So, they only have a few wide receivers and tight ends, so I changed Brian Quick because he was so tall from wide receiver to tight end. So let's see if that works, because they did not have enough tight ends to participate. So they go run here, and J.D. McKissick is just absolutely stuffed by Samson Ebukam. So let's see how well this guy can punt for the Eagles. I mean, we've seen him punt before, but let's see if he can pin the Packers deep in their own territory. Let's see, Demario Davis is ready. He's amped up. Because defense really needs to stop these guys if they want to keep competing in this game. So, man, that was close. But he still gets it off, and it's a punt, and he gets it. Goes in the end zone. But it's not ideal. But at least he didn't get it blocked, which is the main thing. Don't get your punt blocked. So as you can see, Eckler hasn't been dominant today. 15 carries for 55 yards. Only averaging 3.6 yards per carry. He's not been doing as well as I thought he would. I thought he would just be absolutely just killing the Eagles, which I thought all of the players really would. Jimmy G should be picking them apart. Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp and Adam Thielen should just be burning them, but that's not the way it's been working here so far. And again, Austin Eckler gets he gets some yards, like 4 yards, but he should get 10 yards every carry, considering how much better this offensive line is compared to the defensive line. Oh, I don't know. The defensive tackle position is a strong position for the Sun Belt. So let's see what they do here. So Jimmy G drops back to pass. He has really all the time in the world. He scans the field and he fires a pretty great pass over to Mr. Tyreek Hill. He's an amazing receiver, honestly. I don't know how he doesn't have a superstar X factor. He is one of the best receivers in the NFL. I'd say him, DeAndre Hopkins, and Michael Thomas are the 3 best receivers in the NFL, and Tyreek Hill does not have an X factor for an unknown reason. I just don't understand it. He is that great. He's a cheetah on the field. He is just so much faster than everyone else. So they bring Kyle Juszczyk on the field, which makes it smart. Kyle Juszczyk is the best fullback in football, and they get to have him on their team. So definitely you should use him here in different situations. So, got the outside, and it's foot race. Josh Norman eventually catches him, but that definitely improves Eckler's stats. He's now up to 82 yards, 4.8 yards per carry. That was definitely a big run for him. But the Eagles can stop him again, maybe force him to another field goal. Their offense will eventually have to score, though. They just can't hope that the defense stops them every time from scoring a touchdown or a field goal. They have to score touchdowns at some point. So let's see what this Sunbelt defense can do here. This looks like a run with Eckler, and it could work. Let me see what they do here. So they run it with Eckler. Oh, and he's stuffed in the backfield. Great job by Blair. Getting the backfield, tackling Eckler for a loss. And again, these guys are having plays made by people you haven't heard of before, but they're big players on this. It's kind of a team thing. I don't know how to explain it. The Sun Belt is just not made up of great players, but maybe they're just going to be able to surprise pull off the upset. And it would just be amazing if they did. It would just be such an amazing feat. And he misses an open throw. And it's starting to look like the Sun Belt has gained momentum. Even though it's at Lambeau and the Packers are winning, it just seems like the Sun Belt has stolen the momentum heading into this game from the Packers. And it's now the Eagles' momentum. It's just how well this team has played compared to what they're rated. Rushes the passer, and he dumps it off, and it's incomplete. 37-yard line. So this is going to be a pretty long field goal. And again, good coverage causes this. Look at this. David Mayo is just blanketing Delanie Walker, which if you look at the matchup, it should be a great matchup for you. Delanie Walker, David Mayo. We're talking about one of the greatest tight ends to possibly ever play the game. And then we're talking about David Mayo. He's named after a condiment. It just shouldn't be a good matchup for the Eagles, but yet it is. It's and that kick's short by Zuerlein, and then the Eagles are going to get it at the 44-yard line. It's just amazing how this game is going. This team that shouldn't compete at all is seriously competing in this game. All the Packers fans are upset, and there's just really no Eagles fans to be seen in the stadium, as you can see, because this team is not supposed to be good and not supposed to be competing in this game. And if you're an Eagles fan, why would you travel all the way here into Lambeau to watch your team get beat up? Doesn't make any sense. But those fans that are really dedicated to the game get to watch this team actually compete. And even if they don't win this game, which I think they have a serious chance to, they look like they can compete next year. They're building with their fundamental players. And look at that catch. Oh, run after the catch all the way for a touchdown. Mr. Gerald Everett from South Alabama. From Mobile, Alabama. The man, the myth, the legend himself with the juke move going all the way for the touchdown. And if Will Lutz makes this field goal, that will put the Sun Belt in the lead in this game. They should not be in the lead. What a throw by Brandon Silvers. Honestly, you got to give him credit for that. That could have been intercepted if it was thrown poorly, but it's instead put exactly where it needs to be. And Gerald Everett makes a catch, makes a guy miss, and then runs all the way for a touchdown because Gerald Everett is amazing. What a series of events. They look like the Packers might take control of this game, but first and 10, they get tackled for a loss, and then they only run for 1 yard, and then they miss. David Mayo blocks the pass, and then Zuerlein misses the long field goal, and just like that, the Sun Belt is ahead, and the momentum has changed, and the Sun Belt are seriously looking like contenders here. This could be a team that upsets everyone, and this could be the Loyola Chicago story of this tournament. If you didn't know, Loyola Chicago, if you didn't watch the March Madness a few years ago, they won by a miracle shot against Miami, and then they won winning by 1 point, and then they won 2 more games with just miracle threes at the end to win the game or clinch it against Nevada, and then they ended up beating, I think, Kansas State to win, to go to the Final Four, which they ended up meeting Michigan and getting their hopes destroyed. But what a run by Loyola Chicago. But imagine it could be the same way with these Eagles. You could say this, like, I want to do an NFL comparison. The Titans run this year, where they definitely didn't look like I don't know. I didn't think they were the better team heading into the Ravens matchup. I honestly thought it going into the Patriots matchup. I thought, you know what? I mean, Tom Brady carries that team, but if Tom Brady doesn't show up, we could easily have an upset here. And Tom Brady really didn't show up for them, and honestly turned out to be the last game Tom Brady ever played in that stadium. So looking back on it, it's probably a lot of Patriots fans are sad. So Jimmy G chucks it deep, and it is incomplete with good coverage. And it's looking bad. I'm not going to lie. For this smaller school Packers, they cannot go into halftime losing. Maybe Matt LaFleur can give them an amazing halftime speech to bring them back, but I just haven't seen the Packers come back a lot without, the refs' help. It's tackled in the backfield, and it you could feel the just energy sucked out of the Packers ever since that 1st and 10 where they got tackled for a loss. Nothing has gone their way. Actually, everything has gone against them, except for, obviously, they could have thrown interceptions, but they got 1 yard after that, and then they David Mayo was a big part of that momentum swing when he made sure Delaney Walker didn't catch it, and then you have Zerline missed the field goal, and then we know what happened from there. Everett took it to the house. So let's see if he has enough. He has a lot of time, and he's sacked, and it just feels like the Sun Belt is taking control, and it's awesome. It's just such an upset, and it's so exciting to see if this team could actually upset the mighty Packers. The team that's ranked 5th, the 5th best team in this tournament, could end up losing in the first round to the team that is the worst. And Steve McLendon just fought through 2 guys to get to Jimmy G, which is a serious feat. 4th and 20, they're going to be punting, and the Sun Belt's going to get the ball back with about 5 minutes left. They're going to get, I'm going to guess, pretty good field position. It's on their own side of the 50, but yeah, 38-yard line, that's pretty good field position. So let's see what the Sun Belt can do before halftime. And look at that man, Brandon Silvers, who was instrumental in this comeback from down 6, which is really not that lot. But, I mean, if it's the Sun Belt and you have legit the second worst quarterback in the NFL, stats-wise. I mean, he's not playing like the second worst quarterback in the NFL. But if you do that, then 6 points is like $1 billion. And he strips off the tackle. And it just seems like it's gone from the Packers really kind of wanting to win to it just seems like the Sun Belt wants to win more than the Packers do. Which, I mean, the Packers can get by just on talent alone. But the Sun Belt just seems to have more heart. A lot of people being like, hey, you can't compete against this superior team. I think they just want to prove him wrong. And he catches it. And that's going to be a first down at the 49-yard line for Brian Quick, the wide receiver changed tight end. And it just is looking bad for the FCS Division II, Division III team. You have to do better than this. This is not reasonable. But 4 minutes left. See what they do. Okay, on the ground again, they pick up a good amount of yardage. They pick up 5 yards, and it just shouldn't be working. The defensive line should dominate. I mean, other than Nseki, there is really not any pretty good offensive linemen. I mean, I'm fine with Daniel Kilgore. He can actually block. But the other guys, this should not be happening, but yet it is. And there's 3.5 minutes left. And we could have the Sun Belt going into halftime with the lead. Brian Quick gets 1 rush for 2 yards. 3rd and 3. About 3.5 minutes left here. And if you're Michael Pierce and Demon Snacks Harrison, and you gotta do better than this in rushing the passer. You should be dominating these offensive linemen. So let's see what Brandon Silvers can pull out here on this 3rd and 3. So they bring a blitz. It's time to read. But he dumps it off short, and it's going to be just short of the first down. And honestly, if I was Doug Peterson and I was in this game, I'd go for it. There's really no reason not to. You have the momentum. You are on the Packers side of the 50. You're not in field goal range. And it's like 4th and 1. Go for it. You've had the push offensively. You've just been better at rushing the ball against this defensive line. You should go for it. But in Madden, they always take the ball off the field, the offense off the field, which just makes, okay, this makes even less sense. Trying to let's make this extremely long field goal, which is no good. That was a poor coaching decision, which doesn't happen that much from Doug Peterson. We're talking about Doug Peterson here, one of the best head coaches in the NFL. I would say probably Sean Payton, Bill Belichick are better, and so is Andy Reid. But he could be up there for 4th best head coach in the NFL. Sean McVay is pretty good, and so is Harbaugh. But Vrabel's an awesome head coach as well. So I don't know. I like Bruce Arians, too. There's a lot of good coaches in the NFL, in my opinion. But now the Packers are going to get it at their own 49-yard line. And instead of, you definitely needed to not go for that field goal. If you're not going to keep your offense on, fine, then punt it. Don't let Jimmy G in this pretty explosive offense that could take off at any minute get it at their own 49-yard line. Under no circumstance can you let that happen as an... I understand throwing an interception, but taking a field goal from that distance, that's a bad decision. That's just not a good decision. It's horrible, really. You needed to go for that, or you needed to try to pin him, because the punter has looked pretty good for him so far. Lutz has missed now both of his field goals. In real life, Lutz is awesome. I'm gonna defend my man to the grave. I love Lutz since he's a Saint, and he helped us single-handedly probably win that Texans game. It was such a huge field goal at the end. But he's not been playing well in this game. And just like I have the advice, if your running back's not running well, put in another running back. You have 3, and I just don't understand why teams don't do that all the time in this game. They stick with the same guy, even if it's not working. So the rush really isn't getting there, but it does now. Mr. Mario Addison, the outside linebacker I was talking about, brings the heat. I think he plays rush. So if they really want to rush the quarterback, they bring him in to rush the quarterback because he's better at it than their defensive ends. But just look at that. Getting in there, sacking Jimmy G. But, you also got to give credit to the coverage. That should be hands to the face. I don't know what that in the world that was, but that should be hands to the face. But it's going to be 1 minute and 40 seconds left. And we're starting to see the Sun Belt play really well here. Minute and a half. Throws it. And a pretty good open Tyreek Hill. And he's so slippery. But it brings up a 3rd and 2. 1 minute, 20 seconds left. And the Packers can take this lead, and probably should. It shouldn't be that hard. Field goal. They're deep in field goal range at this point. They could even get a touchdown. But honestly, you have to score here. If you're the Packers, you have to regain some of that momentum you've already lost. You're just in so much trouble if you are not able to do that. But your time's clicking. 1 minute, 8 seconds left. Let's see if they run it here. I think I'd run it, okay? They go pass, and it's incomplete. Could have been intercepted by Mr. David Mayo. That was a bad decision by Matt LaFleur. It's just bad decisions, coaching, period. Honestly, the reason I picked Matt LaFleur for this job, the reason why they're the Packers is a lot of people know. Just a lot of small school head coaches. Sean Payton's a small school head coach. So is Bill Belichick. But I went completely on how they did it this year. Okay? So that is why it's Matt LaFleur, because statistically and record-wise, how well he had the 3rd best year as any head coach, because he made it all the way to the NFC Championship. But honestly, we all know that he's probably not the best head coach that went to FCS Division II or Division III schools. That'd probably be Sean Payton or Bill Belichick, depending on who you're more of a fan of. But honestly, it's probably not him. But we went on how they did this year, and I didn't want people arguing with me. Well, actually, never mind. No one watches this stuff, so who's going to argue? But I kind of wanted it to be 100%. Because it's kind of difficult. In the ACC, who are you going to pick? You're going to pick Ron Rivera? Are you going to... not Ron Rivera, I'm sorry. Are you going to pick Bruce Arians? There's other guys, too. I can't think of off the top of my head, but there's a lot of mediocre ACC coaches, which I don't think Bruce Arians is mediocre. No, I actually think quite the opposite. I think he is one of the greatest to ever coach. And he might show us this year with Tom Brady. I honestly don't think he will, but he might. He had that run with Carson Palmer a few years back. Took Arizona all the way to the Super Bowl. And we all know Carson Palmer is not one of the greatest to ever play the game. It's Carson Palmer. He had a pretty good career, but he was not one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, but now you have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, which I don't think he is the greatest. I don't think he's the GOAT. I think that's Drew Brees, I mean, as a Saints fan. But honestly, I don't know. The only thing that Brady has going for him is the rings. All the other stats go to Brees. Like, I don't even know how you argue that. I mean, people have more rings. Ooh, no, intercepted. Oh, you can't do that, Brandon Silvers. You can't. You're actually turning the momentum over to them. You can't give away the momentum. You had the momentum, Brandon Silvers, but now they have a chance to take maybe a 16-7 lead before halftime. That'd be killer. Just killer. I don't even know where you're throwing that to. That looked like you were throwing it to Antoine Bethea. Like, he was the only one in the vicinity. Like, that is a horrendous throw. If you were trying to get it to the other guy, that guy was covered anyways. That was a bad read, regardless. So let's see what Tyreek and Jimmy and Adam can do here. Let's see what Mayo can do. Mayo. He's awesome. He's the Mayo. So let's see what they do here. They're going to have a conversation. But Jimmy G goes 5 wide. See what he does with 50 seconds left on the clock. So they bring blitz where you don't expect it, and Adam Thielen gets the first down, but David Mayo just absolutely clobbers him. He just destroys the man. He's now has a concussion, and he's gone for the rest of his entire career. He's just out. But what a hit by David Mayo, actually, though. It was such a solid hit. And again, we're looking at a Sunbelt team that is looking very strong near the end here, even though they threw that interception. And we're looking at a team that maybe possibly could become a good team, a team that competes from year to year, which would be amazing for the Sun Belt, considering what they're going against talent-wise. They just don't have the talent that SEC and ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, I mean, even the American and Mountain West are seriously over talent. Like, even Conference USA is just so much more talented. But now, there's 41 seconds left on the clock. 2nd and 3. So let's see what they do here. Throws it over the middle. And there's a timeout. 36 seconds left on the clock. Packers have 1 timeout, LaFleur. So let's see how LaFleur uses his timeout with 36 seconds left. He might not have to. First catch for John Brown, by the way, from Pittsburgh State. But 36 seconds left, 11-yard line. They could punch this in before he has to even worry about using a timeout. But the way this defense is played, I wouldn't be 100% certain that you could punch it in against them. Drops back to pass. Delaney Walker's pretty quickly hit. Now it's 28 seconds left, and they decide to go huddle. Like, why wouldn't you go huddle with, 20 seconds left on the clock? I mean, it's not so little amount of time that you can't do anything, but you think you'd go no huddle. Okay, so he just wasted about 14 seconds there. He could have taken the timeout at 30 seconds, but instead he decided, you know what, why not waste 14 seconds? That was a horrible coaching decision by Matt LaFleur. 16 seconds left, 6-yard line. Let's see what the Packers are able to do here. Maybe they can punch it in the end zone. Maybe they're going to have to kick a field goal. So Jimmy G looks like he's going to pass here, obviously. Why wouldn't you pass? So he goes slants here. They throw it to Mr. Tyreek Hill. But he's tackled, actually hit. It's a more accurate description. And they huddle up, and they just decide, you know what? Why try and kick a field goal when we can just, take it into the next half? Anyways, this is GGB Coles Popper saying adios, amigos.